Alrighty, we are on Havdalah Amud Beis and Pesachim, and we're going to continue a little bit with Havdalah, and we continue with Havdalah. We're going to get into halachas of Berachah Samuch. Hello, perfect time. Topic of Havdalah Amud Beis. Ulla ikla lepumpadisa. So Ulla happened to be in Pumpadisa for a Shabbos. Amrle Rabbi Yehudah liyitzchak brei. So the pronouns are going to be difficult. A lot of amrles here, so we got to follow it. I'll try to spell them all out. Amrle Rabbi Yehudah liyitzchak brei. So Rabbi Yehudah tells his son Rabbi Yitzchak, Zil amti lei hilkala deperi. Go bring Ulla a basket of fruit. V'chazi heichi avdil, and see how he makes Havdalah. Right? He didn't tell him just to go. If you just go, so maybe he won't make Havdalah for a while. But if you bring him food, he's gonna have to eat, and then to eat, you got to make Havdalah first. So you'll see how he makes Havdalah.
When is this taking place?
Ulla was in Babel for Shabbos, in Pumpadisa for Shabbos.
It's going on. It's Motzei Shabbos.
Regular Motzei Shabbos. Yeah, he sent them with a basket of fruit. Go see how he makes Havdalah. He wants to see. There are two questions we have with Havdalah. How many Havdalahs does he say? And how are you chaysim? We had a three-way machlekes. What the chasima is, a four-way machlekes. We had Seder Berachos, Yotze Berachos, Mekadesh Yisrael, or Ben Hamavda Ben Kadesh L'Chaverta. So let's see what he does. Okay. Loi Azal. Rabbi Yitzchak didn't go. Shtader Leila Abaye. He sent his gift with Abaye. Now, how do you not go? His father told him to go, and he's not going. So, there's a mitzvah of kibbud of aim. Maybe you could. Can you do kibbud of aim with a shliach? Debatable, but even if you could, it's mitzvah ba yesimi b'shluchai. That's for sure. So there's a lot of raid about kibbud of aim. If the it isn't getting any direct benefit from what you're doing. So is there a mitzvah of kibbud of aim? The mitzvah of kibbud is to benefit your parent. Listening, just because they said to do something, is not necessarily a mitzvah of kibbud of aim. You can't be seiser dvarav, that's yira. But the mitzvah of kibbud is to the mitzvah of kibbud it's a shayla, does it require hana to the parent? They have to be being nene to it. In terms of? Correct, that is not directly, if you ask me, bring me a cup of water. So then you got to bring him a cup of water. That's being nene. He's being nene from that. His benefit. Yeah, but that's not the hana for the father. What the fathers wanted to know is, well, how do you make Havdalah? So I'll figure out another way to find out how you made Havdalah. Okay, so that's not called. That's a shah. That's not that. So I think it's the Raj who brings a raya. Because I told you so. Exactly. That's a different Indian. It's not kibbud of aim. Right. The mitzvah of kibbud requires that you. Then this is a Raj who brings a raya from here. That I tell you what, this shah was always Nagaya. I remember hearing this. The shah was always Nagaya. Your parents want you to take taxis. In Eretz Yisrael, when we lived in Eretz Yisrael, the parents want to take taxis. With the pain in the neck, it cost me a lot of money. I don't want to take taxis. So do you have to take taxis? That was one child. The other one was about smoking. If your parents say you're not allowed to smoke, or whatever else you're not allowed to do, you have to listen. So that's so the Raja. I brought down from the Raja brings a raya from this Gemara that kibbud of aim is only on something that you're directly benefiting the parent. They're not getting a direct benefit from it, then there's no mitzvah of kibbud. Okay. Says the Gemara, so ki asa Abaye, when Abaye came back from visiting Ulla, Amar lei, so Rabbi Yitzchak said to Abaye, Hechi Amar. No, so what did he say? Amar lei, Abaye told Rabbi Yitzchak, Baruch Hamavdi ben Kodesh L'Chaverta. Amar. He said, and that's it. That's all he did. Now, there are two ways to understand this. It could be that's all he said, meaning he made one Havdalah, like Rebbe, like Ben Rakadish. Or it can mean that he said all three Havdalahs and he was Messiah with Berachah Samuch ben Kodesh L'Chaverta. Right, two ways to learn this. Okay. Now, Osla Kamei Davua. So Rabbi Yitzchak comes back to his father, Rabbi Yehudah. Amarle. So Rabbi Yehudah says to his son, Rabbi Yitzchak, Hey Amar. No, what did Ulla say? Now, he could have just told him what he said, but he didn't. Amarle, he said, so Rabbi Yitzchak says to his father, Rabbi Yehudah, Anole Azli. I didn't go. Ana Shadrite Abaye. I sent Abaye in place of me. V'Amarli, and Abaye told me that he said Amavda ben Kodesh L'Chaverta. Okay. Amarle, so Rabbi Yehudah says to his son, Rabbi Yitzchak, Rav Nuse, Demar, that's the Gaiva of Mar, he calls him Mar, which is impressive. He calls his son Mar. Rav Nuse Demar, which is your Gaiva. The Saruruse Demar, and your it's your Shrara, like you acted, could be like a Ben Seiro Meira. You're not Yashrus of Mar. Garmale caused Garmale Lamar, that caused Mar, caused Rabbi Yitzchak to Leitema Shmaite Mepume, that the halacha won't be said over from you. It's going to be said over from Abaye. And so what? So the Rashbam here brings a very where'd that Rashbam go? Sarusi Demar, Ka'asal, if he was upset at him. Ashley Halachubazmi, he didn't go himself. And he said, there's 5-6 lines down in the wide lines in Rashbam. This halacha won't be said over, taught in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak. They're going to say it over in the name of Abaye. And so what? What's the difference who they said the halacha over from? V'amrina, and we say, Kol tam l'chacham, she'oimrim davar shmua mipiv, any tam l'chacham, that a halacha is said over in his name, sivsaisav daivavais b'kever. His lips move in the kever. So I guess that's a good thing. That means you still have lips when you're in the kever. That means that it's like you're still alive. You don't die. It's like there's you have a legacy. Okay, that is that's sugya. Okay, now so what Lamaisa we got here. He said Mavda b'Kodesh L'Chaverta. Gevaldik comes along. The Gemara is going to ask a kasha. The kasha basically is that what kind of bracha is this? As they ask this kasha, Gemara brings a whole brisa from brachas, and Tosfos is going to go through the whole brisa, explaining what all this stuff is, and Gemara ask the kasha and give a teretz. Here we go, Meisvei. So we're going to challenge now this teaching of Ulla. He only said Amavda ben Kodesh L'Chaverta. Meisvei call it brachas kulan, all brachas. Pesach bebarach. The format of a bracha is to start with Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, say whichever you have to say, and then finish off Baruch Atah Hashem with a chasima. That's the format of brachas. Kol brachas kulan Pesach bebarach v'chaisim bebarach. Chutz, except for a lot of brachas. Chutz, the berachas mitzvahs. Berachas mitzvahs is a davar katzer. It just has a bracha and then doesn't have a bracha. It has a bracha in the beginning, not a bracha at the end. Berachas haperis, really all berachas hanenin. It just the shakal and dvarei doesn't start and end with a baruch. Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta, a bracha that is next to another bracha, doesn't get a psicha. It only has a chasima. Think of all the brachas of Shmoyna Esrei. Those are 19 brachas. The first one starts with a baruch and ends with a baruch, and the rest of them are just don't begin with a baruch and only end with a baruch. That's called a bracha that's Samuch L'Chaverta, I'll finish the Gemara and we'll go back and discuss these each. Ubracha achrona shebekriya shema. The bracha achrona, you might think, 1 second. The bracha achrona of Kriya Shema, which is emes ve'emuna, or emes v'yatziv in the morning. Emes v'yatziv in the morning is a bracha like what is that? Where's the beginning of that? So that's also considered a Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta. We'll see in the Gemara, in the Rashbam, because it's Samuch to the bracha before it. Shema is in the middle. So he's going to say Shema is not considered a hefsek for a very specific reason. Rashbam says. He says because we connect that bracha with Kriya Shema. Where does the bracha begin? Not with the word v'yatziv. It begins with emes. But we put together emes, which is the beginning of the bracha, together with Kriya Shema. We finish up Hashem. Really, the parsha ends Hashem ani Hashem Elokeichem. Period. We say ani Hashem Elokeichem emes because there's another pasuk that says Hashem Elokim emes. So we put the end of the bracha together. So the beginning of the bracha with the end of Kriya Shema to connect it. So he says because it's connected, therefore Kriya Shema does not become a hefsek, and it can be considered a bracha that's Samuch L'Chaverta. Okay. Now, sheyesh mehen poseach bebaruch. There are those that are brachas that begin with a baruch and are not chosim bebaruch. V'yesh men shechosim bebaruch. There are those that end with a baruch and do not ve'in poseach bebaruch and don't begin with a baruch. Then we have hatoiva hametiv, which is poseach bebaruch, very long bracha, but it's not chosim bebaruch, and we'll see why. So now, what's the point of all this? Top of Kofei says the Gemara, we have a kasha on Ulla, shepasach, because he just began with baruch and he wasn't chosim bebaruch. He only said Havdalah ben Kodesh l'chol. The way Rashbam understands, it sounds like he's learning that he just did the same thing Rebbe did. He just made a bracha, Baruch Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Havdalah ben Kodesh l'chol. Why wasn't he chosim bebaruch? Let's just take a look at this top because the Shakvatar of the Gemara. Kasha Ulla. The Pirush HaKuntra is the Pirush La'el, the Lay Amar El Havdalah ben Kodesh l'chol v'suloi. That's all he said. Kasha. So what's the kasha here? Ma'asakadaytach the maksha. What kind of kasha you asking? Hapshita the Berachah Saperis damya. This is a Berachah Mitzvah, a Berachah Saperis. It's a short bracha. Why should you end with anything more? Why would you? What do you want him to say? Berachah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Havdalah ben Kodesh l'chol, Berachah Hashem, Havdalah ben Kodesh l'chol. That's ridiculous. That's this kasha on Rashi's pshat. This is a real bracha ktsara. Why should you need to end with a baruch? Va'oid lema de savra Ulla Rabbi Yehudah Nasi. So I'll just tell you, Ulla holds like Rabbi Yehudah Nasi. Who's the Tana? Like, why don't we ask this kasha on him? He didn't make a chasima. Venira, so says is the other pshat that we mentioned before. The Ulla Amar Nami Kol Shar Havdalas. He said all of the Havdalas. The Ishtik B'loi Chasima, and he wasn't chosim. The Sakadaitach the Maksha thought, Kivin the Aruchi Hiktsas, since this bracha has length. He's saying about the Makadosh Chol ben Al Cheshach when Yisrael Amim, maybe or maybe not. Havei l'mechtam the baruch, he should have ended off with a baruch. Mid the Havia Kiddush, just like Kiddush a chosim ba. Avagav dahi. Kivin sheish barichas, since it's a bit of a lengthy bracha, we say the whole thing. Meshani dam yishapel berachas peres. It is considered like a berachas peres or berachas mitzvah, and that's why he wasn't chosim. So it's not what I said. Maybe somebody else said the pshat that I said, but Tai's understanding that he all he said was Havdalah ben Kodesh l'chol ben Al Cheshach ben Yisrael Amim. Period. That's all he said. That's what he said, and he wasn't chosim bebaruch. And that's the kasha. How could you not be chosim bebaruch? That's the kasha of the Gemara. Again, Rashbam learns the kasha of the Gemara that what Ulla did is he just said the bracha of Havdalah ben Kodesh l'chol. Period. And the kasha is why didn't you add a Baruch Hashem Havdalah ben Kodesh l'chol? Taisa doesn't like that because why should you add that? It's a short bracha. So Taisa learns that all he said, what he did say was the 3 Havdalas, but he wasn't chosim. And on that, the Gemara is asking, why weren't you chosim? This is a bracha, like a bracha arucha, like Kiddush. And on that, the Gemara answers, Amalacha Ulla would answer, Hanami Berachah Samuch Damya. This is like a Berachah Mitzvah. Berachah Mitzvah is my timer. Why don't you finish off with a Baruch Hashem? Mishum Dahi Dahi. Because it's, I think it's the idea, it's one Haidah. It's you thank Hashem for this mitzvah. So Hanami Haidahi. This is Havdalah is also Haidah. We're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the I'm thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for Shabbos or for Chol or Havdalah. It's one idea, and therefore it's not necessary to be chaysim with it. Okay, that's the Gemara. Let's go back here and discuss this brisa. Okay, so the first thing we said was that all brachas begin with a baruch and end with a baruch. So let's see that. We'll start with the second thesis. Okay, thesis is going to discuss a few brachas that don't begin or end with a baruch. Says thesis, v'tema bracha delekai neshama. Delekai neshama is a bracha. It finishes bracha to Hashem, machzir neshamaysav gar mesim. So it's a beautiful bracha. We talk about the neshama. Amalei Pesach is a baruch. Why doesn't it start bracha to Hashem? Okay, Malach Ha'ilam. Delekai neshama Hashem satavi. Now maybe you'll say it's Samuch L'Chaverta. We say it maybe after Ashi Yotzar. Yeah, but that's not what the Gemara. It's not the way it was originally made. When this bracha was instituted, the Gemara says, when a person wakes up, he says, Elikai Neshama. We say instead of Elikai Neshama when we wake up, we say, we thank Hashem for our neshama. But originally, when you woke up, you were supposed to wash an al-gavasar and say Elikai Neshama. V'chein kasha. Similarly, another question Taisa says, Me'atahu ad shalei nivra ha'olam. You have that one right before we start karbanis in the morning. Atu ad shalei nivra ha'olam, atu mish nivra ha'olam, bracha to Hashem, mekadosh Hashem chavarab. Yeah, so that's another bracha. Why doesn't that start with a baruch? And finally, Taisa asks from Tfilas Haderech. Tfilas Haderech is another bracha to Hashem shemei tefillah. We end with. Why don't we start it with a bracha? Shechasam ve'ina pesach b'baruch. So Taisa asks from three places: Lakan Neshama, Atu Hashem v'La'olam, and the Yehiratzain of Tfilas Haderech. V'yesh Leimer. Taisa the answers. This is a wild answer. V'yesh Leimer. Lefi she'enan brachas. These are not brachas. Ela shevach v'tfila ba'alma. It's not a bracha. Interesting. You know, the lashon of tefillah, I mean, our whole Shema Esrei is a tefillah, but it's a tefillah that was nitkan with a bracha. These were tefillahs that were not bracha, like Aleinu. Aleinu is a tefillah. It's not a bracha. So this was a tefillah that also ended with a bracha, but it's just a tefillah. Now, I didn't see it when I was in the Svarim I was looking at, but I remember last time I learned this, I heard from, I think it was from Rabbi Yehudah Katz. He said, based on this, there's a halacha, tefillah is meant to be said by yourself. Tefillah, when you daven, you need to say a tefillah, but you're supposed to say it on your own. So, based on this thesis, tefillah haderech is something which you should say by yourself. Not have people, in many places, I remember going, you're traveling on a bus, some guy gets on the mic, and he says tefillah haderech for everybody, right? That is, it's okay. It works better if it's a bracha. If it's a tefillah, that's something you should really say on your own, or nafkamina. Okay, but anyway, if it's a tefillah, Teisus is saying what does he say? It's a shevach or a tefillah. Then it's not a bracha. There's a difference. There are some tefillahs that were nitkan as brachas, and some things that are just tefillahs. So this is just a tefillah, not a bracha, or it's a shevach. It's a praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and not a bracha, and therefore it doesn't have the rules of brachas. Okay. Trust me, we'll get there. You didn't see all these places in here? We're going to get to everything. Okay, so we got three out of the way. Now we move on to another one. Bracha Sha'achar Megillah. The bracha after Megillah, which is Hakel HaRavas Rivenu. Okay. Nira Dechasminon Baruch Hashem Hakel HaNifra La'ama Yisrael Mikol Tzareh Hakel Mashiach. shehi arucha. Meaning, he's saying you need to be chaysim with that. It needs a chasima. You can't just say the bracha, it actually begins and ends with the bracha. Now, I don't know if it's, so it sounds like his question is, why do we need a chasima for that bracha? It's like, why isn't it like a Berachah Samuch? Like dami leberachas peres umitzvahs shein kitzaris. This bracha, since it has some length to it, it's considered a bracha arucha, and therefore it needs. Thank you. Therefore, it needs to end with a baruch. V'chein yesh b'Yerushalmi de Megillah, and that's what it says in the Yerushalmi Megillah. Ubekmar didan, and the Gemara also says that b'Sor Mishanim dechosim ba v'baruch hakel hanifra. That's the Gemara in the third parak in Brachas in Megillah. Now, others ask the other way. Why does it start with a baruch? Why don't we say that it's a Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta, the Berachah Achrayna of Megillah? I mean, you make a bracha when you start the Megillah. You read the Megillah, and then you say a Berachah Achrayna. So why do you have to start with Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu Malkeinu Malkeinu Harav Esriveinu? It's really, it could be smuchel to the bracha that you started the Megillah with. Is the Megillah considered a hefsek? Taisus definitely doesn't. I mean, I don't know. Taisus doesn't ask that kasha. Somebody else did. Okay, we'll see. Maybe Taisus later on talks about if
I wouldn't think
you would think it wouldn't be, right?
But just the length
It
seems to make it not a bracha.
Yeah, could be Lamaisa. Yeah, but yeah. Okay. One more bracha we got. Bracha. This says one bracha. The brain of Fashas Rabbis. Okay, the bracha brain of Fashas Rabbis. Does it have a chasima? So what do we say? We say bracha l'shalom l'chila. Brain of Fashas Rabbis l'chasedim. Al kamash abrasa. Lachir zon shchai. Baruch elamim. What are we saying? Baruch elamim. So in the Yerushalmi tesis here says, Yerushalmi, it finishes Baruch Atah Hashem Che'elamim. The Bavli doesn't say that. So we have a suffix. Is this supposed to end with the Baruch or not? So we end it without saying Hashem's name. That's what we do. Others say you're supposed to be Chaysim Baruch Atah Hashem Che'elamim, like the Yerushalmi. I think I saw that in the name of the Gaon to say the whole thing. Baruch Atah Hashem Che'elamim. Again, what's the need to know? It's a question of like length of the bracha. You're mentioning too many things in the bracha that it requires a chasima. The pasha it would require a chasima. That's what Yerushalmi holds. Okay, so that we got here. We got like 5 brachas here. We got the kind of shama. We got atu ashilen v'olam and tilas haderech. We say Teisus says they're not brachas. The bracha after the Megillah should be chaysim bebaruch because it's a long bracha, and the brain of Fashas Rabbis says here says it should be chaysim bebaruch also. That's what he brings to the Yerushalmi. Okay, now let's talk about brachas that are samuch l'chaverta. First of all, when we say a bracha is samuch l'chaverta, therefore it doesn't need a bracha. It doesn't start with a baruch. What's the pshat in that? So let's take a look at the Rashbam first. He says, Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta. It's like a little less than halfway down in the Rashbams in the wide lines. Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta. Kegoin oisen shel shmoneh esrei brachas. Those are all brachas that are Samuch L'Chaverta. U'bracha achrona shebekriya shema. Now, he said that's still considered the Bryce says a bracha samuch l'chaverta. Apal pi she'im bracha acheres l'ma'ala himena shehischil ba bebaruch. Even though there's no bracha next to it that began with baruch. Those are the key words I want to pick up on over here. There's not a bracha next to it that began with a baruch. L'chayr, you could understand the bracha samuch l'chaverta in 2 ways. It's a bracha that's next to a bracha that finished off Baruch Atah Hashem, Reifei, Chayle Amma Yisrael, and now I start Baruch Aleinu. So it's next to a bracha that ended with a Baruch. That's one way to understand the bracha that's Samuch L'Chaverta. Or it's next to a bracha that began Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. Right. And that is when I'm saying my bracha now, it's Samuch to that bracha that began with a Baruch. So the Rashbam understands that it's that way. It's the second way I said. And that's why he's saying that the bracha of Emes V'Yatzev is not next to a bracha that started with Baruch Atah Hashem. It's actually not next to any bracha. But he defines a Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta as something shehischil ba b'baruch, that began with a Baruch. Shari hifsa kriyishma. But avapikin in a maschil b'baruch, you don't have to begin with a Baruch. V'chashvina l'Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta la'isa shalafnei kriyishma. We consider it a bracha that's next to its friend, which is the bracha that's before kriyishma. Shari mechuber emes v'yatzev. Like I said before, the reason for that is because we connect kriyishma to the bracha by saying emes v'yatzev together with kriyishma. I'll say official kriyishma. The meaning of the bracha, like the Gemara says, shetzarach litzmach emes v'yatzev achar ani Hashem alekechem. You got to put those together. Kedechsev Hashem alekim emes hilkach kechada birchasa arichta damya. It's considered one long bracha. Okay, that's Rashbam's shot. Let's take a look now at Tosfos. Chutz mi Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta. Pirush. This means lefi chasam birishayna. Since I finished off the bracha with a Baruch Atah Hashem, ein tzarich liftayach hashniya bebaruch. I don't have to begin the second one with a Baruch. Okay, clearly not like the Rashbam. Rashbam says the word is that you're next to a bracha that began with a Baruch, and Tosfos learns that you're next to a bracha that finished with a Baruch. Okay. Now Tosfos is going to go through lots of scenarios for us. Let's start with the bracha after the Haftarah. The bracha shel achar Haftarah. It goes, how does it go? Okay, Tzur Kalei Ad Shekol Devarav Emes V'Tzadek. Then the next words are Ne'eman. Now, in the old Machzerim it appears V'yesh Hefsek B'Machzerim U'Maschel Ne'eman Atahu Ve'ein Sham Bracha Loi B'Chasimas Harishena V'Loi B'Psichas Hashniya. He got a problem. In his Machzer, it would end the bracha. It would end Shekol Devarav Emes V'Tzadek. It didn't say Baruch Atah Hashem. It just had a break and then started Ne'eman. So it's like, what's going on over here? V'nira the kula bracha achasi. Tosfos says that this is really just one bracha. That's the way we have it now. The kula mishtoi ben ne'emanus b'amitas hamakim. It's describing the trustworthiness of Hashem. So why was there a break in the machzerim? Mashiach hefsek b'machzerim v'vishayu regilim kol tzibur lahafsek sham v'loimer shevach. The tzibur in between there, they would interject some type of a praise. I have no idea what it was, but that's what they would do. Okay. Because I'm a Masach L'Sefer. V'chein mashma hasam. The bracha achasi, it's actually mashma in I guess Masach L'Sefer that Ne'eman is part of the bracha of Tzur Kalei Lamed. The ka'amar the maftir mevarach zayin brachas. It says that the maftir would make 7 brachas. Keneged the zayin kruim. He would make 7 brachas corresponding to the 7 aliyahs that they had in the Torah. How do you have 7 brachas? We don't say 7 brachas on the Haftarah. It says Pirush. The Kriyas HaTorah, when the Mafzer gets an aliyah, he makes a bracha b'tchilu b'soif. So that's 2. The Achas Lefnei Haftarah, that's 3. And then you have 4 afterwards that brings Harei Zevin, Harei Zayin. Okay? So that's, Tosfos says that the Ne'eman that's mentioned in there, it seems to be like another bracha, is not, it's all part of the same bracha. Great. Now let's move on to Sheva Brachas. Sheva Brachas, we got all types of brachas you have at Sheva Brachas. You have brachas ketzaris, you have brachas aruchos, meaning that start and end with a brach, and you have brachas Samuch L'Chaverta. So what is this mishkabel here? It should be like Shemoneh Esrei. You should start the first thing with a bracha, and then everything else should be a bracha Samuch L'Chaverta. Why do we have so many types of brachas? So let's do it. Shavuot brachas. Shalom Suin. So it starts like this. The bracha of Shakol Bar L'Chavoidei, the Yotzer Ha'adam, V'asher Yotzar Es Ha'adam, Shepleichesim Bebaruch. They all begin with a baruch. Pirish Rashi and Ksubas. Rashi explains for each one. First of all, Shakol Bar L'Chavoidei, Nitkana La'asifas Ha'am. What kind of bracha is this? Shakol Bar L'Chavoidei. That everyone was created for everything. Everything's created for Hashem's honor. So this bracha really is meant to be said. It's such a gathering of people here, so we make a bracha Shakol Bar L'Chavoidei. The bracha b'fnei atzma, and it's an independent bracha. Really has nothing to do with the chasana kala. It's on the asifas ha'am, on the tzibur that came for the chasana. Okay. Now the bracha Yotzer Ha'adam, the creation of man, like you really don't need to say this bracha. So you're about to say a bracha after Asher Yotzer Ha'adam B'tzamah B'tzam the Mustav Nisai. So why do we have it? El Lahaskir Shtei Yitziros. It's to mention the fact that there are two creations. Tiknua, we want it to be clear that there are two creations of man. What's that referring to? Probably the creation of man when he was created originally. And the Gemara says he was du partsufim. He was created as male and female. Then he was separated. And then he was put back together. And at a chasana, when we're putting the chasana and kala back together, we're creating man again. That's another Yetzirah Adam. So we want these to be two distinct brachas. And therefore, to make a heker, Tesis holds, because we want to make a heker that it's an independent bracha, we begin again with baruch. If you would have thought these were similar brachas or that they're identical, we therefore start the next one with a bracha as well. So it's also like an independent bracha. Okay. Then you have Asher Bara. Pesachim is really the last bracha that begins with a baruch because the Fisha Emor is Levada. This is a bracha which really that sometimes you'll say without the other brachas. When there's no panim chadashas, you're making sheh brachas. There are nobody new ways. You can't say all seven. The only ones you can say are B'rei Piragafen on benching and Asher Bara. Okay. Rabbeinu Tamay Mishdak Shakol Bar L'Chavoidei the Yetzer Adam Lakach Pesach Bebaruch B'lei Chasima Shem Ketzaris. The reason why they start with the baruch and they don't end with the baruch because they're short brachas. Kamei berachas aperis umitzas upesichasan zuhi chasimasan. Their opening is their ending. This is an important klal that we will use again according to Tosfos, that the psicha of the bracha is also its ending. It's a chasima. The reason why that's important to keep in mind is because Tosfos holds that Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta means a bracha that's next to a chasima of a bracha. That's what Tosfos started this one with. So if you're going to have a bracha, if you're going to have a bracha ketzara next to a bracha Samuch L'Chaverta, you can say, wait, there's no chasima here. So Tosfos holds no, pesichazan zuhi chasimasan. The pesicha and the chasima are in one. Okay, it all look like one bracha. Okay, so that finishes Shev brachas. Now we get to another bracha, and this is the Berachah Samuch that we say every morning. The bracha of Lasek v'divrei Torah. How many brachas do we got here? We have a bracha. Sorry, that Asher Kishem says of Zivanu Lasek v'divrei Torah. Now, is Harevna a continuation of that bracha, or is it an independent bracha? Okay, nafkamina, do we say v'harevna or harevna? Another nafkamina, do you say amen to the bracha of lasek v'divrei seira? If it's one bracha, then you don't say amen. It's your bracha. If it's two brachas, then you would say amen to that bracha of lasek v'divrei seira. This is a machlekes. I'm just letting you know, because of the suffix, you're supposed to say this bracha quietly, so people don't have a suffix to answer your bracha to amen or not. Right? It's a. But people lots of times people say brachas out loud, right? So when you're saying that out loud, it's a suffix if you're supposed to answer amen or not. Tosfos holds that it is one bracha. Here we go. Says Tosfos. Berachas Lasek v'divrei Torah v'harevna oimer shehi bracha achas, kiven shepesach harivna bebaruch. And I'll prove to you it's two different brachas, because otherwise harivna should have started with a baruch. That's his shita. Others hold, why would it have to start with a baruch? It's a bracha that's Samuch L'Chaverta. I always follow this last like with Divrei Seira. And therefore it's two different brachas. Okay. Havdalah nami, shepesachas bebaruch, alpha bisha Samuch L'Birchas ma'ar. Havdalah, why do we start bracha d'Hashem l'Ged Malcham Avdim HaKadosh L'Chol? You always say ma'ar, the bracha on the candle, right before you say the bracha on Havdalah. Says he said, Mishum Shalei Tira bracha achas. You don't want it to look like it's one bracha. Since you always say them next to each other, it may look like the same bracha. So that wouldn't be good. Miu Yerushalmi parach. The Yerushalmi asks this kasha, and it says V'harei Havdalah. Why does Havdalah begin with a bracha? And Mishani, because Rabbi Yehudah Mefarzen. You don't have to say the bracha of Ner or Besamim next to Havdalah. They could be said at different times. We do it all ala kais, but it doesn't have to be done that way. So Memela, that's why it would get it's not a Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta. Okay. The Imtaimer. What about a Yehalelucha? Sha'achar Halal. Yehalelucha is the bracha, right? It ends bracha to Hashem Melech Muhul Batishbachis. Why doesn't it start with a bracha? And what about Yiru Einenu, which is another bracha that we say before Ma'ariv? And Yishtabach, also a bracha. Why don't those begin with Baruch? Lam and Pesachim and Baruch. So it takes the goes. The Yesh Lemar. The Yehalelucha have a smucha lebracha. The L'Krayas Halal. Okay, that's fair. You begin Halal with a bracha. Baruch Hashem L'Ged Malchei Lam. Shekishem says Zvanu L'Krayas Halal. Okay, you say a lot of psukim, and then you say the psukim of Halal, and then you finish with a bracha. So that's the format of Halal. So that could be considered bracha that's Samuch L'Chaverta. The Yereinenu is Samach L'Ashkivenu. And Yishtabach, listen to this one. Lebaruch Sha'amar. That's a long stretch. That's a lot of words. V'loi havu a psukim hefsek. Psukim are not considered a hefsek, and he brings his raya k'may bracha achronin shebekriya shema. V'loi havi kriya shema hefsek. Not like Rashbam said that it's because we connected and it's a bracha arichta. Nah, this as a klal, brachas are not, psukim are not a hefsek. So therefore, halal is not a hefsek, and kriya shema is not a hefsek, halal is not a hefsek, and psukim d'zimra are not a hefsek. Psukim are not a hefsek.
They don't need all these brachas.
But they don't psukim, there's all brachas. That's a bracha that follows another bracha. And they are Samuch L'Chaverta, that's why they don't. One second. I missed the question.
If you're gonna say like from Baruch Shema to Yishtabach, and you have all the psukim in the middle, without any of them ending with brachas,
Correct.
you could do the same thing in Shemona Esrei.
Okay, so the we're not saying that the psukim d'zimra are brachas. We're saying psukim d'zimra are psukim that are not a hefsek between the bracha of Baruch Shamar to the bracha of Yishtabach. It's for Shemona Esrei was nitka to be 19 brachas. They're actual brachas. They weren't nitkan to be psukim in between brachas. They were nitka. They were established to be 19 brachas. Okay. Now says Taisus, if this is the case, that Baruch Sha'amar is your bracha rishona, and Yirei and Yishtabach is the bracha that's Samuch L'Chaverta. So then, you shouldn't be allowed to do any hefsek. Meaning, forget talking. You got to say the whole thing straight. Miyukasha. Now you got this is his kasha. Miyukasha miyahalucha deleli Pesach. We finish off Hallel at the end of the Seder with Yehalelucha. That's how Hallel ends. Berachah Hashem Melech Mu'ot Tishbachis or Yishtabach, depending on your minute. The Ein Mevarchim L'Krayas Hallel. And we don't even make any bracha of L'Krayas Hallel. That's our minhag. We don't say L'Krayas Hallel at any time during the Suda. So then, what's up with Yehalelucha? It's not a bracha that's Samuch L'Chaverta. Okay. So now that's a big kasha. Now, I want you to know that there are Rishonim, I think he may mention it, that hold that you do make a bracha on Hallel at the Seder. Many Rishonim held that you make a bracha on hal at the Seder.
Before
Before the meal, you make a bracha then, and you have the meal, and none of that's considered a hefsek.
You can't talk the whole meal either.
Yeah. I mean, eating that. I mean, okay. But that's the Taisa says we don't make a bracha, and therefore he's got a big kasha in halucha. So he says the new pshat, lakach nira, the bracha she'acher psukim ein tzarich psicha. This is interesting. A bracha that follows psukim doesn't need a psicha. Shebeloi psicha nikares haschala. Because since all you're doing is saying psukim, when you start saying things that are in psukim, it's clear that you have a distinction. Remember, Rabbi Yehudah, I think that was that the inyan here to start with a bracha is to show that you're making a bracha. But if it's clear anyway that you're starting a bracha because you transition from psukim to something else, so then I wouldn't need to start with a bracha. I didn't see anybody ask this kasha, but I'm just thinking now. But you need to have shem and malchus. Every bracha needs shem and malchus. Another call, you need to say Hashem Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. So, I guess that's generally a question according to Taisus. How you ever have that? According to the Rashbam, that your bracha is always samach to the beginning. Let's say beginning of Shema, say Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. That's where your bracha started. So you have a bracha Hashem and malchus. But Taisus holds it's really samach to the Baruch Hashem of the Chasima. So Taisus seems to, I don't know how he deals with that, but I guess it's not a new kasha. That's just a kasha on Taisus Shita. But Taisus has a klal here that whenever you're following psukim, there's no need for a psicha, and therefore he would say that you don't need. That's why yishtabach at the end of psukim the zimra, and at the end of hal yahalucha, and I got Yereinen, who's also following a bunch of psukim, doesn't need to start with a bracha because it's following psukim. Okay. We'll go over right there. Ubi Yishalmi parach.
When is it that you need Shem and Malchus versus just Shem?
I don't know. The general rule is you always need Shem and Malchus. So I'm asking Kasha on Tosfos, by every Berachah Samuch L'Chaverta, where do you have Shem and Malchus? I was asking it specifically over here, that here he's saying you don't have it's not a bracha, it has no beginning at all, this bracha. And that seems to be okay. So Tosfos must hold, I don't know, he has a different Malach and Shem and Malchus, I don't know. But no, that's what we would gain. According to Rashbam, that holds the bracha Samuch L'Chaverta means going back to the beginning of the bracha, not the end of the bracha before it, but to the beginning of the bracha before it, it will give you Shem and Malchus as well. Okay, we'll stop here. The rest of the Taisus really is going through Yerushalmi and explaining the Yerushalmi, but we'll stop here for tonight. Okay, Hashem. Tomorrow we'll see you.